Okay, should be set. Hello, everyone.
Hello? Hello.
Dave's lint rollering. Wait, Dave is lint rollering. See?
Why are you lint rollering?
Because a dapper man.
You are live. The internet can totally see you now.
What were you saying about your lint roller?
A man must carry his lint roller at all times.
And
I don't know.
use it to
Tammy,
stay handsome.
Joanne,
Oh, yeah, use
it to stay handsome.
Especially when you have a cat or dog.
Okay.
So while everybody's getting on here, I'm making some orange
Galena.
instant pot chicken. So I'm getting started on that. Okay, so I have this on saute.
Nancy says hi, Mike, Tara, and handsome Dave. Yay. Oh, Blue Tintin, so sorry you've been sick with the flu. Yes, Kathy already. Hi, Annika in Jerusalem.
Hello.
Annika, you gotta send me some more candy. I'll pay you back. Don't worry. Don't worry, I'll pay you back.
I think thank you would be more appropriate.
How about thank you for the candy? All right,
Dapper
so I am
Man.
making
Yum.
some instant pot chicken while everybody's getting on here that I'm going to run during the show. And so I have it on saute. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Christine in Texas.
Today we are talking about the chicken conspiracy.
Dun, dun, dun.
We didn't even plan that, did we?
Oh, Tanya made the honey baked chicken tonight, and it was yummy.
That and our maple glazed chicken is the two most popular recipes on our website. And in our Dining on a Dime cookbook. Now, I am making an orange chicken in the Instant Pot while I'm going to be talking about
Doing your research.
doing your research. Yeah, thank you, dear.
We're trying to think of
Okay.
a delicate way to...
Okay, so while this is going, oh my, I don't know. Okay, so let's see, saute 2 to 3 minutes. Cook it until it just starts to get golden. Okay, I don't know how to get this any more higher. I just have it on saute, but I guess I'll just sit and wait for it.
Is
Okay.
that an Instant Pot recipe?
Yes. Now, I have an orange chicken that is really, really good, and Mike's going to share the recipe for that while we're waiting for this to saute.
For what? Orange chicken? Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Sorry.
And it is not in our Dining on a Dime cookbook. This is just one we have on our website. But just a quick announcement. Our How to Save on Groceries e-course is on sale for 50% off. It's only $12.50, guys. That is a stinking good deal. Seriously. It's over 360 pages, I think, and we have 10 videos.
It's stinking?
Stinking good. And we have 224 quick and easy recipes is one of the ebooks.
Oh, this is for the e-course.
For the e-course. And it is on sale until Friday. And everybody's just been loving it on our How to Save on Groceries Facebook page. Another link for you to grab there. You link grabbing fool you. Okay, so we're going to be talking about
Doing your research. Mike's having the desire to be diplomatic and realizing some people may not want it to be diplomatic.
doing your research. Now, I will say I have 6 pages of notes for today's show. So that tells you something.
Renee says, got your cookbook for Christmas and love it.
Well, thank you.
you.
Dining on a Dime, yay. Okay, so you were very nice in your intro. Can you do your intro?
Okay, so if you saw the title, the title was, if you didn't see the title, I'll tell you what the title was. It was, Tara wanted me to put, why I won't be buying Zaycon chicken. Because she's been approached by a lot of people that are saying we should try to sell this product. And the thing is,
we have been approached for more than, actually, I think I was first approached in Wichita, or in Andover.
oh, really?
Yeah, so it's been at least 7 years since I was first approached about this, okay?
So before we start, I think today's National Corn Chip Day. Man, Denise, I should have had a Frito pie. But before we start, since Mike is the diplomatic one, what I think that Tara would like to express during this show is that she doesn't have a problem. She's not saying that this company's product is bad, but what she is saying is that a lot of what people believe about this product is not incorrect. It's just that the way it's presented, it suggests that everything else is not what it is. And so I think for people that like that product, in the end, we're not going to tell you don't buy it. But what we are going to tell you is why Tara doesn't think it's really saving you anything, and why people are easily influenced by marketing in ways where you might not realize it. And after she talks about that, I'll probably interject about television and all the things I learned about
Marketing.
what's true in the media.
Okay, so Zaycon. First of all, I didn't realize people didn't know what this was until we posted it on today's, on our How to Save on Groceries Facebook page. Just so you remember. I've heard about this for seven years now. I thought it was only like 4 or 5, and I realized actually it's been at least 7 or 8 years since I first started hearing about this. And so, what is Zaycon Foods? So, Zaycon is basically a meat co-op.
Oops, sorry guys for the sheet.
And what happens is you pre-order your meat 1 to 3 months or 1 to 5 months ahead of time, and you prepay for it, and then you have to go somewhere like a church or a school or wherever. Church or school, usually it's like churches, senior centers, that kind of thing. And they come and they deliver your meat. Now, here's the thing. You have to they're famous for their boneless, skinless chicken breasts. That's how they got started. And it's supposedly a really good deal. The other thing is you have to buy it in 40-pound boxes. Like 40-pound boxes, okay? Now,
So it's like a wholesale thing.
it's like a wholesale chicken co-op type thing. Now, I will say, I have not purchased their products.
Oh, sorry. Ed, yes, new comments on Facebook are at the top. A few people were asking about it, so.
So I will do a disclaimer here and say that I have, what did my brother say?
My sister's going to express her feelings. Trust me, I've been in these situations before. Run while you can.
Thanks. I will say that I have not purchased their products, and I'm giving you my reasons why I have not today. Now,
So she's not commenting on the quality of the product.
I'm not commenting on the quality, although I will say, after doing a lot of research the last 3 days, because I will be perfectly honest, when this whole thing started going crazy last week about, oh, they're having a sale, oh, it's great, and everybody was talking about it, it really disturbed my soul. Down deep in my soul, it disturbed me because of the marketing tactics that they're using, okay? Now, first off, the number one reason is why I will not buy their products is it is $1.99 a pound where I live for boneless, skinless chicken breasts. I can go to the grocery store almost every month and boneless, skinless chicken breasts are on sale for at least $1.99 a pound. They have in the last few months been going down to $1.69 and $1.79 a pound. So In my black and white mind, because I have no gray area, in my black and white mind, I'm sitting here thinking, wait a minute. I'm supposed to spend $1.99 a pound, lug home a 40-pound box of chicken that I then immediately have to process because there is no room in my freezer for a box of chicken that big. So I have to immediately process that chicken as soon as I get home. Not to mention driving at least a half an hour each way to pick up the chicken and spend another hour or two processing the chicken, I'll say an hour. So we're talking 2 extra hours to pay the same exact price as the grocery store. It just makes no sense to me. Why would a person do that to themselves? So, especially me, I don't have the energy or the strength to be lugging a 40-pound box of chicken into the house and dealing with it after I've had to go to town. I'm always exhausted when I get back from town. So, to me, that just doesn't make sense, okay? Now, that's not getting brown very fast. It's already been 15 minutes. Okay, so for me, it's all about price. And they were having a 99 cents a pound sale this last week. Several people were promoting it. I have no problem with that. But even at 99 cents a pound, to save $40, by the time I drive all the way over there, spend 2 to 3 hours driving, why is it beeping? Driving and processing the chicken, the gas money to drive clear into town, I would be earning about $6 an hour doing that. That is not worth it to me. Now, that is the price, is my number one reason. It makes no sense for me to drive all the way into town when I can get it for the same price at the grocery store for the same exact product. Now, this is where the rest of the show is going to come in. It is the same. It is the same exact product that you buy in the store. It is... David's back there. Breathe, Mom. Breathe. It is the same exact product you buy in the store. Let me say that one more time. It is the same exact product you buy in the store, and I will tell you why.
Well,
okay?
And so the concern, so when people are wondering, some people are saying, hey, well, what do you mean? So basically, Tara's going to explain why it's not worth paying more or having to do more work for something if it's something you can get otherwise for easier or less expensive.
Yes.
And we've heard a lot of things about it that people are misunderstanding about other kinds of chicken.
Yes. And so let me get the rest of my stuff in here for my Instant Pot orange chicken, which is kind of interesting. Here, we'll see. Okay, so I got it all in there. Now,
Diana wants to know what shampoo you're using. Your hair looks great.
Don't do it like that.
well, how do I do it? It's on there.
No, let me show you.
Oh, there. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as the Instant Pot, yes, Tara she's still trying it out on different things, and so today she's cooking in there while she talks about that.
So while we're doing that, I am doing a oops, I think I just messed up. Oh well. Okay, we'll just see what happens here. Select manual, 5 minutes high pressure, 10-minute natural release. Okay, do you see manual on here? I don't see manual. Well, I guess I'll just do pressure cook, 5 minutes. Is that all I do? High pressure. I don't see high pressure. High pressure. Okay, I accidentally turned it to 6. Hopefully an extra minute won't do anything.
So
Okay.
Alderman Farms says, proud of you for giving the Instant Pot a chance. She's been doing a lot of it off camera to try to figure it out.
Try and get it going. Okay. So So, we're going to talk about marketing and how places use marketing to get you to buy things.
Well, I think beforehand you should explain some of those other deals.
What other deals?
Like about hormone-free.
I know.
Okay, that's part of the marketing
thing. That's
thing.
part of it. Okay. All right, so, guys, I really did my research on this, and I have spent, since last Wednesday, hours and hours combing the internet, looking at the USDA, looking at chicken farmers, looking at the pro anti-everything websites, and this is what I have found out. And I really want you guys to listen to how they're marketing these products and how it's almost deceptive. It's just marketing, okay? So first of all, one of the claims that you always hear is that it's, oh, and I talked to several people who purchase from them, and I got their reasoning for purchasing from them. And the one thing that they said over and over again was that it's hormone-free, it is fresh from the farm, it is high-quality chicken, it is, there was something else. I can't remember what the other one was. Let's see, where was it? Did I say it's fresh? Not frozen? Okay. And that they love being able to get the chicken. And a couple of people said that they love to bring it home, package it into smaller portions, and make it for freezer meals. Another person said that she loves to, well, actually more than one person, but one person said she loves to bring it home and can it to have quick, easy meals. Okay, that's totally fine, and I understand if you're going at it from that point of view.
Sorry, I missed it. For what? Which point of view?
Using it as a freezer meal. They like to bring this huge box of chicken home.
So they like it not frozen so they can cut it up and cook it right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So here's a couple of the claims, and I'm going to go through and tell you some of the truths to these claims, okay? So, quality food at an unbeatable value, direct from the farm to your family table. Okay, quality food at unbeatable value. It's not an unbeatable value. You can get the same price at the grocery store.
How expensive is the food?
And there were a few people, but I mean a few, who said that they could not get it for $1.99 a pound in their grocery store, and it was more like $3.79 or $4.99 a pound. But for 3/4 to probably 80% of the United States, you can get it for $1.99 a pound or less. We are in Colorado, and $1.99 is on the high side. The next thing is direct from the farm to your table. Okay. So one of the selling points is that it's from the farm to your trunk in just a couple of days versus weeks and weeks in
the
regular store. Guys, that's just not true.
It's true that they can get it to you, well, maybe in a couple of days.
Okay, wait, yes. Okay, wait a minute. So, but what they say is that grocery stores takes weeks and weeks and weeks to get the chicken on the they're implying that it takes weeks and weeks for the chicken to go from being butchered onto the grocery store shelves. That's just not true. It's not true at all. So I called my butcher at my local grocery store. It's a Kroger store, and I called him before I did any research. I didn't tell him who I was. I didn't tell him what I was doing. I said, I would like to know if you can tell me how long from the time a chicken is butchered at the farm will it be on the shelves at the store. He said, oh yeah, I can tell you that. He didn't even hesitate. He said,
we've got that information right here.
He said, when you get it in the fresh packages in the store, he said they butcher it and package it and refrigerate it on day one. And on day 2, it's on its way to the store, and on late day 2 or day 3, it is on the shelf in the grocery store. So this company is implying that it takes weeks and weeks for your chicken to get from the being butchered to the shelf, and that's just not true. So then today, as I was doing a bunch of research, I thought, okay, I'm just going to make sure that what the butcher told me was true. So I researched butchering chicken, I researched processing chicken, and I researched how long does it take to get your chicken to the store.
Just a little pause. Because there are a lot of people dissenting before hearing Tara's point. Angela says, what are you saying is not true? So in this case, what Tara's saying is not true is not that they don't get their product to you when they say they do. What Tara's saying is not true is that they're implying that other people are doing it differently than is true. So for instance, if you say your sugar candy is fat-free, it implies that other people's sugar candy is not fat-free, but all sugar candy is fat-free.
Exactly.
So what she's saying is, the implication is we get it to you fast, other places get it to you weeks and weeks later, but that's just not true. And so it's not that they're misrepresenting their product as being, they're not saying something that's wrong about their product. They're just influencing you to buy their product, which maybe requires more effort, by more or less telling you that the other people's product is defective in a way that it's not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So to say that it takes weeks to get to the store is just not true. Now, I asked my butcher next. I said, okay. I said, now, in my mind, I would think frozen chicken would be much safer than just refrigerated chicken, because the chicken is slaughtered, they lop it into pieces, and then they freeze it right away.
The people some people that say they like it, is that what you're saying? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the butcher. Well, the butcher told me that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I was telling the butcher that is how they freeze chicken. It's immediately frozen. So I was talking to the butcher, and I was like, in my mind, that would be safer.
Because it's frozen right away instead of frozen 4 or 5 days later.
Frozen right away. Now, I asked him, I said, does it matter in freshness and quality if chicken is frozen or not frozen, or if it's fresh? He said it makes absolutely zero difference, zero, on whether a chicken is frozen or whether it's fresh. It all depends on how you cook it. That's what it boils down to. Now, the other thing is that, let me see, let me look at my notes here, just 1 minute.
And to support that, we have a number of people. Cherry says, my husband works at a chicken plant. They have meat going out every day on the truck. Jackie says, hubby used to be a meat cutter. He got the meat shipped to the store he worked at, and many times it was out the same day, cut and wrapped. Depends on the store. A few places here locally have meat cutters that butcher the meat on the actual location. Yeah.
Yeah. So to say that it takes several weeks is just not true. Now, the next thing was that in some way, and I will say, in doing my research, I found several comments on a couple of reviews and different places that said that their chicken arrived either frozen or semi-frozen. So they're not even delivering it fresh. And this was several people. It wasn't just, 1 or 2 people. It was several people that said that Zaycon had actually delivered it frozen, and not fresh.
Donna says, if Zaycon is so fast, then why do you have to order from them 3 months in advance? Sounds like they're lying.
But then Bandana said you don't have to order 3 months in advance, that she got hers with a week advance, so.
Yeah, it just depends on what they have. Usually it's approximately a month in advance, but it depends on what they have in stock in your area, because I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming that they get chicken from chicken plants in your area and have it shipped, so it's really close to you. Now, let's see. Okay, so then they say that it's minimally processed and delivered fresh, not frozen, packed in its natural juices. Okay, that's fine. The problem is all chicken is minimally processed. You do have some chickens that they will inject chicken broth, those kinds of things in there to make it juicier. But as a general rule, it is minimally processed. All of it is, okay? Now, the next thing was on their beef. I'm going to go back to the chicken, but I just want to touch on the beef thing real briefly. On the beef, everyone says, oh, their beef is grass-fed and pasture-raised, and so that's why it's so good for you. But if you read their description, it says grass-fed, pasture-raised with a grain finish. They still are just feeding them in the feedlot with grain. That's how you get a good cow to have good weight so that it's worth it for the farmer and you to have good beef. Okay, now next, we're going to talk about some descriptions and things in buying fresh poultry that I don't think people realize. All right, so first we're going to start with farm raised. Now, I looked up several websites for farm raised chicken and what's the definition, and this is what I found. It doesn't have a specific definition. All chickens and animals raised for food production are raised on a farm of some sort.
Wait, where's this?
Whether it's large, small, or in between. The farm-raised chicken label doesn't differentiate unless it says raised without antibiotics. They're all antibiotic free because they went through the withdrawal period. The farm-raised label doesn't mean that the farm-raised label does not mean they weren't raised without antibiotics. Okay? Am I doing okay so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So, just because it's farm raised doesn't mean they didn't use antibiotics to help keep that chicken healthy. The next one, hormones. I had a lot of people say they buy this chicken because it's hormone free. There aren't any, zero, chickens sold in the United States since the 1950s that have had hormones.
Wait. It's not the 50s, has it?
Yeah, it was the 1950s.
I thought the 50s was the, what do you call it? The stuff that kids used to take to...
Steroids? Well, they said it was the hormones.
They said hormones and steroids. Steroids
when I was looking.
Hormones are illegal to give to chickens when you're raising them in the United States.
So, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has not approved any growth hormones for use in raising pigs or birds for food. The USDA does not allow it at all. All chicken is hormone free. It's all hormone free. You cannot buy a chicken in the United States legally that has hormones.
Holy smokes. Suzanne says it's $6.50 it's
So-
$6.50 per pound in Sweden.
Yeah.
But the thing is, so the problem that Tara has with that, and I kind of have the same problem, is when they tell you it's hormone free, it's true, but it implies everybody else's chicken has hormones, but it's not legal for them to raise and sell chicken in the United States that has hormones. But when people see that on the label, somebody said this about the marketing. Julie from Georgia, Tara's right, it's marketing, making you feel special. Yeah, when you see it on the label, if you're health conscious and you're concerned about your health, and legitimately so, if you see that it's hormone free, they're implying they're trying to trick you into thinking other people's has hormones. And so, yeah, they're just hormone free. They're telling you the truth there, but in order to persuade you to buy their product instead of someone else's product, they're saying hormone free.
When it's not. Because no chicken has hormones. None of your natural, organic nothing. All your chicken in the store that's not good for you, it's all hormone free. So hormones aren't even an issue for any chicken at all. So apparently a lot of people did not know that because they kept touting this particular chicken as being hormone free when all chicken is hormone free.
Yeah, I think that, because I saw the 1950s thing, and Angie was saying it's not the 1950s, but you're correct, that it's not allowed now. I think the 1950s was steroids.
Okay, sorry if
They
I
said
mixed that up.
steroids
Okay.
haven't been allowed since the 50s.
Sorry if I mixed that up.
Yeah.
Okay, natural. The use of the word natural in chicken. You really shouldn't pay any attention to that label because the FDA has not developed a definition for the term, so it can mean anything or it can mean nothing at all. A product containing no artificial ingredients or added color and is only minimally processed. Minimal processing means that the product was processed in a manner that does not fundamentally alter the product. The label must include a statement explaining the meaning of the term natural. So, natural is just something that they can throw on there just because they feel like it and just say it has no artificial ingredients. It's been minimally processed. But 90% of the chicken out there has no artificial ingredients and are minimally processed. Now, like I said, some chicken has been injected with broth and those kinds of solutions to help keep it more moist. But it's not all the chicken. I find it all the time because I personally can't have some of the ingredients that are in those broths and that kind of thing. And so I find it all the time. It's not like it's a hard thing
Your
to
brother's
find.
being the comic relief in the comments.
My brother's being comic relief. Okay, so what?
Guys, this doesn't just apply to Zaycon. We know there are other producers out there taking advantage of this marketing
Yes.
thing.
Well, and the other thing is, I'm not necessarily saying, like, marketing is a way to persuade you to buy somebody's product. And that doesn't necessarily mean their product is bad, but it is kind of manipulating you in a way, in the same way that if politically, if you pay a lot of attention to certain people who will give you their opinion on politics, they're gonna advocate hard for what they believe. And on the food thing, it's the same way. If a company wants to sell you something, they're gonna advocate for their product. And it's not necessarily bad, although it seems like when people imply that other people's product is messed up in a way, sorry, then, see, I hate it when people's phones interrupt. When people imply that someone else's product is defective, it's a little sketchy. And the other thing is that where we're going with this is to say, if you really want to save on your food budget, you probably should, when you hear people make comments about things, you probably should, if it's very concerning to you, you should do some serious research yourself. Because a lot of this stuff, a lot of things are promoted by bloggers and vloggers who are giving you their opinion but haven't done any research. And so people tend to get their news from all sorts of sources, and all those sources, the only thing that you need to do to have a YouTube channel is to be alive and have a computer.
And a camera.
So if you give your opinion on your YouTube channel and a lot of people like you,
Or your blog.
then if they don't do the research, everything you say is gospel. But that's not necessarily true. So what we're saying is, again, Tara's not running down the product, but what she's saying is, if you're buying it for certain purposes, you may be wasting your money if that's the only reason you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing is genetically modified. No commercially available chickens are genetically modified, not for any purpose, period. So it's not even an issue. Chickens are not genetically modified and cannot be sold in the United States. Now, free range or free roaming. Producers must demonstrate to the USDA that the poultry has been allowed access to the outside. Here's the thing, guys.
Oh,
All they
sorry.
have to do is open a door. That doesn't mean the chickens are going to go outside for sure to spend all their time in the glorious sunshine. They're not necessarily going to go outside. All they have to do is open a door for them to do that.
Okay, I have to address this. Because Darla says if you watch Rotten on Netflix, you'll get your answers. I have to tell you, if Cousin Louie came over and was giving his opinion on Thanksgiving about whatever he's thinking, that's about the value that a Netflix documentary has.
Yeah.
I'm telling you the truth here. I was a television producer for 20 years. I have seen all sorts of production, and what I've discovered is you have to have zero knowledge about anything to make a documentary. So all you have to do is have some idea whether it's true or not, and you can make the documentary. And you might say, well, they had video of this. I also was a video producer for 20 years.
And they manipulate the video.
It's so easy to manipulate people with video. So easy. And it's not always bad. If what they're telling you is true, but they're making it a little more heart-wrenching and it's going to help you, maybe that's not a bad thing. But the thing is, a lot of it is, I want you to believe what I believe or buy my product. Therefore, I'm going to tell you something that sounds scary, and I'm going to edit video together in a way that makes it seem like this is awful. So I'm telling you, if your source is a documentary on Netflix, or your source is some video blogger on YouTube that has terrifying stories about food, or your source is somebody's Facebook post, or even if your source is the news, none of those sources are reliable. And so if you hear that, don't just believe it and get scared. These days, it's a really big thing in our culture for people to say, it sounds scary, so it must be true. And that is absolutely false. And that's the way to get manipulated.
That's
because,
how the news manipulates.
Well, having worked close to news, thankfully not in news, but I had a lot of contact directly with news. Their purpose is not to tell you the news. Their purpose is to sell you advertising. Every one of the people that's promoting or creating these things is their job is to sell you stuff. And the way they sell it to you is by telling you something in the way they want you to understand. So virtually all news is not real. But it's more likely to be real than a Netflix documentary, a Facebook post, or what Cousin Louie says at Thanksgiving. So don't use those measures to believe. If you hear something and you don't know, go find out from an actual source who actually knows something about it. So ask your butcher, ask a farmer, ask not just one farmer, ask a couple farmers, and not just one that you know is going to agree with that particular thing. Just go find some random farmers that do this sort of thing. They're happy to talk.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Okay, so the next thing is cage-free. And some bloggers keep touting that the Zaycon the Zaycon chickens are cage-free. But I did not see that on their website. So I don't know if that was something maybe they did before and have changed or what. I don't know. But, David. But if you see cage-free labels on your chicken in the store, you need to know that no chicken is raised in cages. The majority of chickens raised for meat in the U.S. live in large open structures where they can walk around. Others, including free-range chickens, have varying access to the outdoors based on the farmer's preference. So here's the thing, guys. They say it's cage-free, but none of them are in cages. And I watched several videos.
So theirs are cage-free. So they're telling you the truth, but they're telling you in a way to scare you about someone else's product.
Yeah. And this chicken
here... And if the
here,
other product was a problem, it would be worth being scared.
Yeah. This chicken here was cage-free also. And the thing is, so people say that if they're outside, they're not going to have as big of a risk of salmonella. If they're all raised together. Chickens stay together. Have you heard the saying, is it birds of a feather flock together, I think? Mm-hmm. Birds naturally go together, guys. They naturally do. That's just the way that God made them. And so it looks like these poor chickens in these houses are in horrible conditions. But I looked at a lot of videos that showed a lot of chickens that weren't in horrible conditions, and they're just normal chicken.
Okay, Mike has to interrupt again to tell you. Okay, again, it's video editing and photo editing and telling you stories that aren't necessarily true. And the reason why this bothers me, people, is I was a television producer.
You said people. You're getting into it.
I was a television producer for 20 years, and it really burned me greatly because I knew I had the power to manipulate people. I could make you believe things that you don't believe by showing you video, whether or not it's true. And I felt a personal responsibility to be honest and legit. But I saw so many people who were not, and I feel like it angers me to think that people are manipulating you. I'm not saying you individually, but you in general, all the people that are listening. And they do it they're trying to manipulate us too. And the thing is, we're trying to teach people how to be discerning in this sense, to do research and look. And I'm just saying, as a video guy who understands how easy it is to sway public opinion through video, don't let them pull the wool over your eyes.
Yeah. Okay,
so, go ahead.
So the next thing is the large chicken breasts that are available now. And Zaycon touts large chicken breasts, implying that the way they're raised in the farm makes theirs better than someone else. This chicken breast right here is probably a pound, at least a pound. This is 4 servings of chicken, okay? So that's great, they have large chicken breasts, but let's discuss why chicken breasts are so much larger. Because everyone keeps saying, oh, they must be giving them steroids. Oh, they must be using hormones. That's not true, guys. After researching it, the large chicken breasts are because they have improved modern breeding. Breeding is not genetic modification. I mean, it is in the purest sense of the form.
It's natural genetic
modification. It's natural genetic modification. They have better living conditions now, climate-controlled chicken barns, and protection from predators and extreme temperatures. The temperature is regulated in the barn, so the chickens are not stressed. They have up-to-date biosecurity practices to keep disease out, which means they have healthier nutrition, and they are feeding chickens a tailored diet to each stage of their life to get larger chickens. They also are cared for daily and not just left out there to do what they want. Also, the fact that they have a veterinarian regularly overseeing the use of antibiotics and vaccines to keep the chickens healthy. Now, let's talk a little bit about antibiotics. Should we? Do I need to duck? Do I need to duck if I talk about antibiotics? Here's the thing, guys.
I'll be curious to hear
the thing that I found out, and Mike found out this the other day, which we were researching on our date.
I hate doing work on a date, but
I was just, I'm serious.
Tara was like, I can't let people be deceived.
It really bothered me that people are being so deceived by these marketing practices. And about the antibiotics. The antibiotics they are using are for animals, not people. They're not used to treat human diseases. Secondly, the chickens who have had an antibiotic have to go through a certain period of time to make sure the antibiotic is out of their system. So there's none in their system after it's been processed. So really, and quite frankly, I'm glad they're using antibiotics. I don't want a sick chicken. These chickens that have no antibiotics, the reason why they're so ridiculously expensive is because it is horribly hard to keep chickens free of disease when there are that many chickens there. And unless you're raising them in your backyard, which is fine, unless you're raising them in your backyard, it's very difficult to keep them disease free. But none of the antibiotics, there's nothing that has been shown. No studies have been done that have shown that it's actually doing anything to harm humans. There is no harm to humans. There just has not been anything that has been found. Now, the next thing I want to...
Wait.
Oh.
Are you ending your thing about antibiotics?
Go ahead.
Because I was doing some research on the antibiotics, and first of all, they're not going to give them... Well, they do give them antibiotics. I missed some of what you said, so I hope I don't repeat. There's a federal law that prohibits them from using certain classes of antibiotics that are primarily needed for people. Did you say that already?
Kind of, but go ahead.
And there's one more class of antibiotics that chickens and people also use, but I think it's the least preferred one for chickens, and it's currently scheduled to be completely phased out. And then there are other things they use as antibiotics for chickens that have no use at all in humans. So there's no potential for you developing antibiotic resistance because of that. And so where was I going with that? There were some farmers that were talking about the no antibiotic movement, because a lot of people say they're cruelty free. And what they were saying is these chickens come in and if they have a big farm, there's a lot of space, but there's a bunch of chickens all together because they like to be together. And they're not like all jam-packed into one thing where they can't move.
Yeah.
But the thing is that he was saying because they're all together, if some of them get sick, they all get sick and they suffer horribly and die. And there's a certain thing that's typically in chickens, a lot of chickens, that can spread to them and make certain ones sick that get all of them sick.
They are super vulnerable.
And one of the farmers particularly was talking about how the chickens come and they're sick, and if they're not allowed to give them antibiotics, they have to basically suffer really badly. And then
they usually have to destroy
when
the
they're
chicken.
about to die, they're allowed to give them antibiotics, but it doesn't necessarily help. And he said, and then because they would rather try to sell them as antibiotic free. And even though the antibiotics are largely not antibiotics in people. And so the chickens that are in this situation suffer greatly because they're sick and they're not being treated. But then they'll die, and because the farm is large, if they're doing their rounds, the workers may take a half hour or an hour to discover the dead chicken in the feed. And so the other chickens that are also antibiotic free are now eating the feed with the bacteria from the chicken that's dead and diseased. And so he was saying that it's not really, in his opinion, doesn't really see it as safer for you as a consumer to search for antibiotic free, because antibiotic free, essentially the bacteria that these chickens are picking up are E. coli and salmonella, and that if it's antibiotic free, but then you're risking a much greater chance of E. coli or salmonella. Mm-hmm. But again, the thing about cruelty free too is that if they're sick and they're not being treated, that's cruel.
Yeah.
To the animal.
And as far as salmonella goes, here's the thing with salmonella. Everybody's worried about salmonella this, salmonella that, E. coli this, E. coli that. If you cook your meat properly, if you cook it correctly, that is not an issue. The problem comes in is when meat is not cooked correctly to a hot enough temperature to make sure everything is killed. You need to do that with any meat that you cook. Okay.
Wait, Teresa's asking any reliable recipes you suggest, or websites you suggest to read about chickens.
I have a couple that I used to research for this show, and a couple of other reviews on Zaycon that you guys can go and look. Now,
and again, we're not running down Zaycon. We're just saying.
You can look at other reviews, guys. So, don'twastethecrumbs.com and thisbighappy.com were two sites that did specific reviews on Zaycon, and I went and looked through the comments, because I always look through the comments to see what other people have to say. And here's what several people said. They said that the chicken was tough, and it wasn't tender at all. One lady said that she drove an hour into town to get the chicken. They canceled on her. She couldn't get it for another week. And they told her it was the same chicken, and that chicken has a 2-week shelf life before it has to get to the store. And they sent her the same chicken, and it was green, and it was fatty, and it was gross. She said that they would not give her a refund. They would only give her a credit. I called Zaycon today because to me, that would be right there. If I can't get a refund from your company because it's a bad product, I will not shop there. But I called Zaycon today and I looked at their refund, and they do say on their website, you have 30 days and you can get a refund if you don't like their product. Now, they said that you will have to take a picture and send it to them and tell them why you didn't like their product, but they did say they will give it. Now, there is, though, a 10% processing fee if you decide to cancel your order. And I don't like the fact that if I'm going to pay for something, then I'm charged when I decide to cancel it. I understand that they have to process a certain amount of chickens. I get that. But I don't think that's a good business practice. They can do whatever they want, though. That's their business. And if people are okay with paying a 10% restocking fee, that's fine. The other thing is, you have a time window. You have to be there, and you only have 30 minutes to pick it up in that time window. If something happens or whatever, you're just kind of out of luck. And I believe they will give you a credit if that happens, but I'm not positive on that.
Ooh, Cherry says that her husband's plant, the USDA, is there every day checking on the health and the processing of the meat and the birds.
Yeah, guys, there's a lot of people who are thinking that the USDA is just paid off and working for the chicken people and all this. These laws have been put into place to protect you. We have the safest and the least expensive food in the world. The least expensive and the safest food in the world, guys, because these practices have been put into place. And you get a lot of, the documentaries and videos and stuff like that saying how these are just horrible, that they're doing all these things. It's really not that bad. I mean, I don't understand how it's a problem if chickens are raised in a barn. Why is that a problem? It's not.
So Kathy said, I just got on and I'm upset because I just bought some. The thing is, if you bought it and you got a decent price, I wouldn't worry about it. We're not saying their product is bad. We're just saying other people's products are not bad.
Yeah.
So if you ordered it, I would take it and see if you like it, and
if you do, great.
See how you feel about it.
Yeah. The next thing, the last 2 points I want to make real quick here is
So we're not saying their product is bad. We're just saying the marketing makes it sound superior in a way that it may not be.
Yeah. So I had Heidi, my new assistant, do the numbers for me. She's a number cruncher. And she figured up that if you get a 40-pound box of chicken, that is 213 servings of chicken. Now that is a lot of chicken if you don't have a big family. So if you have a small family, or you guys don't eat a lot of chicken, you really need to consider if you want to have 40 pounds of chicken on hand. Now, we eat chicken several times a week, so for us, that would be okay. But if you get the proper serving amount, which is 3 to 4 ounces, and once again, just so we're all clear, this chicken breast right here is 4 servings, okay? I had one similar the other day and I weighed it on the show. That is a lot of chicken. So here's my basically conclusion, and then I'll get to comments and stuff if you want. But pretty much what it boils down to is you're spending a few hours driving to get this chicken, and then you have to process it at home just so that you can turn around and turn your fresh chicken into frozen chicken, all for the same price as the store. It doesn't really make sense. So if you love it, go for it. I have no problem with that. But this show is for those people who are on the fence. And I get this question asked all the time. And this is why I don't buy Zaycon chicken. I am not going to spend a few hours to have it be this work on my part, to have it be the same price as the store, and then turn around and it's just frozen right away. That makes no sense for me. If it makes sense for you and it works for you, go for it. But this show, like I said, is for people who are on the fence and want my opinion, and that's why I'm giving it.
Well, and again, I'm repeating because I want to be diplomatic, that if you love Zaycon, Tara's not saying it's a terrible product. She's just saying that it's about the same, as far as we can tell, to other products where you don't have to do as much work. So, especially being chronically ill, Tara doesn't want to have to do the extra work for the same price.
Yep.
But we're not saying their product is bad, so if you order it and you like it, fine. If you find a way that you think it's easier for you in some sort of way, we're all about that. But what we're saying is a lot of people are just, particularly with the whole healthy thing, everybody wants to be healthy. I don't really talk to anyone that says I don't want to be healthy. But it's so easy to imply that one thing is healthier than another thing without people really checking to see. In fact, I got to thinking, I got a college degree and I applied for so many jobs and put that on all those jobs and not one of them checked. And I'm just thinking that the conclusion, again, Mike's conclusion, is if you're very concerned about something, do the research and see. Because there's so many things people claim about things that just aren't true.
Or they're true,
and I'm not talking
but they
about just
imply
food.
that the other person isn't doing the same thing.
But I'm not talking about just food. I'm talking about everything in general. People will throw out, 92% of statistics are made up. and you know how I know? Because I just made that up.
Well,
the thing is that
you had a perfect example, and I want to use this example. He said, if there's two politicians and they're debating, and politician number one says, I am not a child molester, it's implying that if politician number two is, when he wasn't. And that's not right.
But the thing is, it's kind of mental diversion. It's like the magician that gets you to look over here while he's just fiddling with something in the background over here. So, and I'm not saying that everyone that says information is bad. Like when I was in television, I saw some people that were intentionally trying to manipulate the information to bring people over to believing what they believe. And that really made me angry. But I saw other people who just had no idea. And they heard something somewhere and they couldn't even remember where. And because they heard that, they thought it was true. And so they were crafting the show to share that point. And then there were other people that just had no idea and they only had 2 hours to get the story done. So they're just frantically throwing something together and not getting all the details. So that means that for you, it's important.
Sorry.
Yes? Oh.
I turned on the wrong burner.
Oh, okay. That means that for you, Mike just rolls right back in.
Sorry.
That means that for you, if something really bothers you, you should do research at places where people have some likelihood of being accurate. So like some people say, oh, the USDA is corrupt somehow. Well, a lot of government stuff is corrupt. But the thing is, when it comes to the USDA, their job is food safety. And government agencies that are charged with regulating things love to regulate things. They love to make rules. They love to bust people for doing things that are wrong. And I'm not saying that's bad, but they take their job very seriously. And so when a regulatory agency is saying, here's the deal, I tend to think that's often likely to be reasonable, especially when compared to somebody who reads a lot of Facebook posts and is sharing his opinion, or like I said, those people that make documentaries, because I've made documentaries about things, and in my early days, I had no idea about some of the, and only found out from the people that I asked questions of in that moment. And the thing about being a documentary producer is you need interviews from 5 different people that you interject here and there in the show with a little bit of narration and some video. And that's really all that fits into a documentary. So you don't really have time to do a large amount of research and find out what's definitely true.
And I'll say I've been researching this for 5 days last week, because I honestly for a little bit was thinking about trying to sell and promote Zaycon. But I was just like, I cannot do this. I cannot promote something that is the same price in the grocery store, and you're going to go do 3 hours worth of work to prepare this same chicken. And so,
So Tara doesn't, that's another thing.
If you want to do that, that's fine.
So Tara's not saying she doesn't want to promote it because it's horrible. She's saying she doesn't want to promote it because it's not,
It's not anything special.
She's found less expensive ways to have the same result for us. And when our mission is more teaching people how to save on their food, not how to worry about a lot of things that aren't true. And I'm not trying to belittle anyone's opinion, but what I've learned is, okay, a lot of people in our audience are Christian. And if you are a Christian, I would say if you are brought to a place where you spend 10, 15, 20 hours a week terrified about your food and making lots of decisions based on the food, and I'm going to say this in the lovingest way possible, but it's not really trusting God. And I forgot who it was that said, Gina said, I buy local meat and pray over it. It makes me feel better mentally, at least. I think that's great, because on some level you have to trust. I used to work in a grocery store, and we had all this food training, and I realized if people knew what was in food, and I'm talking about like organic, vegan type food, nobody would ever eat anything again. But you just can't. It's like, every day thousands of meteorites fall out of the sky, a rock. Hundreds of miles an hour, they hit the ground and they make a little hole in the ground. And there was a time where I thought, I'm never going outside because one of these could kill me. And I'm realizing you can't stay inside. If you're in the house, one of those could come through your roof and kill you. So you just have to live. And sorry, Mike's just on a rant, but
Whoa!
the other day when we were testing the rice with the Instant Pot, it came up about arsenic in rice. And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. I did some research because I thought, okay, I want to see what the deal is with arsenic in rice. And what I found out is rice has arsenic in it. But every plant that's grown in the soil anywhere on the earth has arsenic in it. And rice has more arsenic than other things, probably because it's absorbing or something like that. And I was looking online at all sorts of sources about this. And what I saw all this explanation of arsenic in it. And there were just people that had whole blogs dedicated to arsenic in rice. And I guess some news story came out in 2015 that made the talk show circuit. And so now lots of people are terrified about arsenic in rice. And it was because Tara didn't rinse the rice. And so I was looking, and the FDA in the United States says if you cook your rice in 5 times as much water as it calls for, and rinse it, and then rinse it again, and I think even if you rinse it before you do all that, that it might reduce the arsenic in the rice by 40%. And they're going on and on and on about arsenic in rice. And then they said the FDA believes that there may be 4 deaths in every 100,000 people throughout their lifetime eating rice. And I was thinking, that's like a 1 in 25,000 chance that you will die of a disease that might be attributed to arsenic in rice. And I was thinking that, so a lot of people spend a major amount of time worrying about things like this. And if you're one, I'm not disrespecting you. I'm just saying it's good to know the truth, because I decided I'm going to go to the insurance commission and I'm going to see what the statistics are of dying from various things. And dying from lightning, 1 in 175,000. Dying from arsenic in rice, 1 in 25,000. Maybe. They're not even sure it's that much. But dying from driving in a car, 1 in 114. 1 in 114 people.
Seriously, let that sink in.
1 in 114 people in the United States will die from a car accident in their lifetimes.
You're wasting energy rinsing your eyes, which if you want to rinse it, that's fine. I don't care. Worrying about rinsing it for arsenic.
It's the worrying that bothers me.
It's the worrying.
It's okay
but you get in your car and you drive, and you have a 1 in 14 chance of dying.
1 in 114.
Or, I mean, 114.
The other thing is, you have a 1 in 80-something chance of dying from accidentally overdosing yourself on your medicine. And that's probably more when you get older. I'm not sure. But statistically, that's true. And these people, they make their living based on not having to pay out insurance claims. And the way they do it is they have accurate numbers of these assessments. 1 in 1,100 people will die from falling down the stairs in their own house. Of course, if you don't have stairs, that reduces your risk. But nevertheless, what I'm saying is, a lot of times people quote these statistics in scary sounding documentaries about things like arsenic in rice or hormones in chicken or whatever. And then you find out there are no hormones in American chicken. And I think people don't worry about driving in their cars very much. People don't stop. I guess what I'm thinking is the same logic applied to driving in a car is you would move to a place where they don't have cars or roads so that you would eliminate that risk, because that's a massive risk of dying. 1 in 114. That's pretty significant. So
Amy T says you're more likely to die from being hit on the head from a falling coconut while on holiday in Hawaii.
Yeah. So again, I'm not berating anyone. I'm just saying fear and anxiety is a terrible way to live your life. And if it motivates you to spend a great deal of your time trying to hit off at the past, the possibility of bad things happening, the statistic of dying is 1 in 1. 1 in 1 people are going to die. All of us here are going to die unless Christ comes sooner. But we're all going to die. And the thing is that no amount of worrying is going to make you live longer. In fact, worrying... I should have looked up the statistic for dying from worrying and anxiety, because I bet it's greater than the statistic of dying from these other things.
Well, and they said that you have a 1 in 100 or 1 in 110 or something chance of dying from heart disease. How much heart disease is caused because you're so stressed out worrying about stuff?
I think a lot. And it's funny because my parents were very high stress people, and they always had high blood pressure, and everyone said high blood pressure is genetic. I'm 48 years old. I have never, ever had high blood pressure. But I think I've never had high blood pressure because I try to be a lower stress person and not worry about things. And again, I'm not saying everybody is, I'm not saying, okay, a lot of our viewers, again, are Christian. And if you are one of those people, we are commanded not to worry. It's not a request. Like, Jesus doesn't say, it'd be a good idea if you didn't worry, it might do me a favor. He says, do not worry, is a command.
But guys, get your information right. So Bob says not washing white rice will give you loose stools. That's not true. I eat rice every day. My poop is very firm, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Gene. I want to hear that.
So that's just not true.
Another thing about rice, Rhonda says in Asian countries they always rinse rice, and that's true. But part of the reason why they do it, I found this in my research too, in Asian countries, is that the rice is more untreated there. And when I say untreated, I don't mean chemicals. I mean that in the United States, they have the rice come in and they have it go through processes that clean out all the things that aren't supposed to be in there, like rocks and animal droppings and such like that. And then it goes through a process where it gets rinsed and it gets dried and it gets rinsed and dried. And so a lot of things are not in there. And then they add vitamins to them, which are not part of the rice. But in Asian countries, more often than not, the rice is harvested in the field and then you get it. And so they rinse it a lot in order to get the extra starches and things out, because those starches make the rice gummy. And they rinse it like 7 times or something in a lot of Asian countries. And they say that they do it because it fluffs up their rice a certain way. But the main reason is to remove the starches. But in the United States, I discovered rice is generally processed. And processing not meaning they're not pouring bizarre chemicals on it. They're washing it and drying it and stuff. That's the processing. And the processing removes the extra starches. So you don't really need to do that in the US. Again, if you're concerned about the arsenic, you can rinse it. But the thing is, over your lifetime, there's an awful lot of time you could be dedicating to rinsing that when the statistics are almost as high that you would get killed by lightning.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, test my orange chicken. It turned out pretty good, I have to say.
No, that's really delicious.
It's pretty yummy. So I think I will be putting this recipe, I think I'm going to write an Instant Pot ebook.
There were some other questions that came up, and they were a little bit outside of the realm of this, but Tammy says the Bible has do not fear 365 times, one for every day. I think I've heard that before, and it's true. And there were some people that asked about hormones in milk and about chickens being made to eat the parts of dead chickens. I'm pretty sure the chickens eating the parts of dead chickens is not legal in the United States.
No.
But if you're not sure, go research it and then come back and tell me.
So Karen said, I always thought...
And don't research it by Johnny the Blogger, who talks about all the scary things about food.
And here's what I did. I went to the USDA. I went to chicken farmer websites. I went to places like Dr. Axe, who are pro all the anti-everything, all natural everything. And I looked at the truth on all of them. And I researched the truth on all of them, and that is what I found. But Karen said, always thought that hormones were in chicken, and that is why girls were maturing so early. I guess that theory is not true. I know why.
Because they're overweight.
Because our diet is so much more improved since the 1940s and 50s when they started using pesticides and herbicides to help us grow more food. We're healthier. Well, then we started putting on weight, and that also starts pushing people towards that. Now, Mike and I, for all those people who say, oh, you guys are overweight, we know we're overweight, and we are working on it.
My doctor said, I'm overweight, but that's because I like Cheetos too much. I'm like, see, he's being honest.
And I have truly been trying to lose weight, and I found out I have an actual hormone imbalance that is not making it impossible, but is making my weight loss very, very slow. So you can't just always say, X is causing this and X is causing that. Do your research.
Well, one other thing I was going to say about the hormones thing, Karen, I don't really know if it was ever a problem that way, but there was a time when there were hormones in chicken, but I suspect that probably even at that time, it was more of a media spin than reality. But since it's not an issue there anymore, I would be...
My brother says he's leaving because I'm talking about poop.
Yeah, actually...
We're just keeping it real, people.
I have to say, Stormy says now lightning scares me. Yeah, there was a time where I was young and growing, getting older and starting to envision things about the world, and I realized, wow, some things could just randomly kill you and you can't control that. I'm not saying you should be afraid. I'm saying you should not be afraid for that reason. Just live your life in a happy way and let those fears go away.
Okay, so I have to address this. Angie says, I don't agree that we are healthier. If we were, obesity would not be an epidemic. We are obese because we flat out eat too much. We have the best food supply in the entire world and the cheapest food supply. And the reason obesity is so epidemic is because people eat when they're stressed. They eat things like Cheetos and Pop-Tarts and all those kinds of things.
They eat 1,500 calories at lunch.
They eat 1,500 calories for one lunch at McDonald's. It has nothing to do with the way our food is produced. It really doesn't.
I do have to say, in general, the nation
as I'm eating
is probably not healthier. But the problem is, people like to say we're not healthier because we're not eating this type of food. But that's just a way to make you feel good about eating too much. Like, you can eat too much of healthy food and still get fat. And that's honestly a great number of people that get overweight think that they're doing okay because they're eating healthy food, but they're just eating so much of any food that it's a problem. So the healthy thing isn't really about, I mean, it's funny because I've had several doctors tell me, at the end of the day, it's how much you put in your body. You should eat more plants than other things. You should eat more things that resemble what they originally were. But the big thing is when people eat too much. And I notice even at restaurants where they have food that people like to say is more healthy for you, I'm just aghast at how much food people eat in the United States. And you know what? I'm one of those people, although I've been eating a lot less of it lately. But now, especially that I'm aware of it, I notice, wow, people don't really think anything about ordering 1,500 calories of food. And to be honest, it has helped me to see the calories listed on things, on menus and things. Mm-hmm. But so many people don't even pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to spend a lot of time thinking about these things and really focusing on that, that's fine. I'm just saying that, first of all, if you're a Christian, where is your faith? And secondly, if you're, when I'm saying you shouldn't believe anything just because people tell you, but people are believing anything without checking. And even if you're not, what was the thing I was going to say? If you're anybody else, people say, "Oh, I wish I could be more prosperous. I wish I could travel the world. I wish I could do these things. I wish I could be more successful in my job." But they spend so much time focusing on things that have a small probability of eventually accelerating their death just a little bit, that they totally miss out on the opportunity to have bigger things. And that's what we're trying to say is, I'm not criticizing you if you want to, if you want to have some particular thing that you're focused on. I'm just saying, don't let the obsession take over your life and enjoy your life.
Yeah, and Rhonda's right. We no longer hunt and gather. We use drive-through. Jennifer James, I just left you a thing in the comments. I did not get your email, but please email me again. I'll check my spam filter also. She said, we're no longer a hunt and gather. We use the drive-through. Yeah, we don't have to exercise. As Americans, for the last 40 years, we have had to do no exercise. We don't have farm chores. I was reading a diary from a kid in Kansas who was 17 years old. He ate a dozen eggs every day for breakfast. A dozen eggs every day for breakfast. The reason was because he was physically working all the time. And it is not the food that is causing the obesity problem. It is the food that you refuse to have self-control over. And I'm just as bad. When I'm stressed, I eat, and I'm really working hard on not doing that anymore. I'm not saying I'm any better than you are in this area, but to say it's the food that's the problem, no, it's your food choices and how much food you are putting in your mouth. My grandma is 90 years old this year.
She said, you're not telling people how old I am, are you?
She is 90 years old. She has lived on she loves Kraft macaroni and cheese. She ate it every day growing up. She eats it once or twice a week. She eats all kinds of pastries and everything. And she is this petite little thing.
She eats microwave popcorn
all the time. Every day.
And pizza.
She's 91. This is why I have a problem with these things, because when I was born, I had 11 grandparents when I was born. And all of them except one have lived to be 85 to 90 years old before they died. I just don't believe it. They've all eaten the processed foods. They've eaten all the preservatives, the pesticides, the fertilizers. And they made it to 90. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, I'm not going to go on a big rant about this, but I'm going to say one thing about pesticides. If you're concerned about pesticides, it might be good to research from a source that's not a Netflix documentary or a vlogger or something like that for your own self, what exactly that means, because I've discovered that I've discovered that a lot of times when people talk about pesticides, what they're referring to is not actually a pesticide. And our channel isn't really about that, but we could do a whole show talking about that and sharing information. But I would say if you're concerned about that, ask yourself deep in your heart, have I ever actually done the research to ask someone? The thing I would say is, if you want to grow stuff for yourself and know that there are no pesticides in it, go ahead. I think that's great. But if you're afraid to buy things at the store, if you're fear-based and you're afraid to buy things at the store because of pesticides, go out and research what that actually means. And again, I keep bringing up the Christian thing. If you're Christian, the Bereans would hear things and they would then open the Bible and the scriptures and they would search and see if it's true. And I would say, in terms of food and everything in life, if something really bothers you and drags a major amount of your attention and creates anxiety, go find out if it's really true from sources rather than just believing it and sharing it with your friends.
And I will say, I have a lot of really good friends who are really into not using pesticides and that kind of thing. And I don't think bad of it. If they have come to the conclusion and they feel that that's bad for them, I have no problem with that. And I still love them. But for us, I don't have space for a huge garden. For the gardens that I do have, I actually am organic for the most part, believe it or not. But I'm not going to go to the store and be afraid to buy a cucumber because it's been used with pesticides. I can't spend my energy doing that. And so you just...
Wow, there's so many ways I could go on this that would just cause a massive explosion because we don't have time to explain it all. But
You guys want to go till 10?
Yeah, do we want to go till 10?
But again, a lot of this stuff isn't really necessarily the scope of what our channel is about. But what our channel is mainly about is to really, what this show in our channel is really about is really knowing the truth about certain things so that you're not led to spend more money than you need to. Like, well, I guess that would be too long of a story if I tell that story.
Which one?
Stacy.
Go ahead.
I had a friend who would just believe some things, and I kept talking to her about when we were at PBS, and I kept talking to her about it and saying, well, I don't really want to get into all the details, but basically I would say, well, what about this? And she'd say, oh, that's true. And I'd say, what about this? And she'd say, oh, that's true. What about this? And she'd say, oh, that's true. And then I'd say, well, so how come we differ on our agreement if we agree on all the details? And she said, well, I just can't help thinking that someone somewhere is having a problem with this. And I'm thinking, but that's thinking with your feelings and not with your mind. Like, I've noticed, that's another thing I was going to tell you. I've noticed in our culture now, more often than not, people say, well, I feel that that's not really the way it is. I'm thinking, you're feeling instead of thinking. Like, people should say, I think that based on evidence that I have. And I'm very evidence-based. And I'm going to tell you another story. Because I found out this week I was about to have a massive heart attack and die, and I didn't even know it.
You only had 3 months to live.
So I went in for a small test.
That's the most loving you've gotten in a long time.
Oh, I'm going to create a big can of worms here. And then we're going to say goodbye. Just kidding. I have found that not all people that say they're doctors are actually knowledgeable in a medical way. And part of this issue was when BJ, who still is having some mysterious problems, but we think we're zooming in on those problems, was going to a doctor that said they were, what's the word?
Functional medicine.
Functional.
Yes.
I'm not saying that all functional people and everything they do is wrong, but what I am saying is I came to realize when I went and sat down and asked a lot of questions that the answers that I was getting were not at all based in any kind of reality. As they were saying...
Not science.
When I say not science, what I mean is I think that when you're treating somebody for something, there needs to be some evidence that what you're doing works. But what I've noticed is I actually asked a lot of questions, and I was mostly getting, well, yeah, but it depends on how your body's feeling and what your body wants and what your body's saying. But there was no way to predict that any treatment would work for anybody. And I was thinking, so what you're saying is you can do this treatment, and if it doesn't work, that just means it's the wrong treatment, and there's some other treatment, and this treatment works for this person but not for anyone else in the world. And that's kind of what they were saying. And I asked for people who had gone through the treatment that they were recommending, because our son, that they were recommending a treatment for him that was highly invasive, like putting silver in his body in an IV for six weeks for 40 hours a week. He was supposed to sit there with an IV running silver into his body. And I was thinking, okay, first, do no harm. So I said, do you have some people I can talk to who've been through this process and have been cured? And they gave me the names of some people, so I called them, and I didn't want to mess up what they were saying. I didn't want to make them feel bad because they went through the treatment. I just want to know, did you get cured? So I asked, so now that you've been through the treatment, have you been cured? How are you feeling? Are you feeling better? And through the course of everything, they said, well, some days, yeah, a little better, but mostly not. But they tell me that I'm better, and I just have other things that we're clearing out. But they didn't know what those other things were, but they were confident because the people were nice to them and listened to their problem that they're on the right track. And we had a friend who was also going through that same thing at the same time as BJ. And I finally came to realize they're pulling our chain. There's no evidence that any of this is true. Mm-hmm. And they were kind of talking as if all the other doctors in the world are idiots, and they just don't know the secret that we have. And that's another thing that gets people in marketing is, I have the secret. Well, why is it a secret? If it was a really big deal, it seems like everyone would be shouting it from the rooftops. And so what happened is we ended up going to a different place, and we had some improvement, but not the improvement we wanted. But we went to places where they actually use treatments on people and test them and find that people get better.
Addicted Prepper. The people had given them permission to talk to us.
They gave them permission to talk to me.
They didn't just give them their phone number.
And when I was talking to them, I was very kind and polite and acknowledged the fact that they got the treatment. And I wasn't going to say, well, what do you mean you're not getting better? But in my mind, I was thinking, so you've spent all this money and you went through this harsh treatment, and it's been 6 months and you're still not feeling better, but you're convinced that this is the cure. But you don't feel any better than you originally did. And so we went to Mayo Clinic at the time, and they pointed us in one direction, but they said they could continue testing and eventually find the problem, but it would cost a huge amount of money. And they recommended that we go home and follow a process that we're on right now to save ourselves a lot of money and still get to the same conclusion. But there was a friend of ours who was just being in the process that he went through at the time that they wanted him to go through. And she wasn't feeling good for a long time, and they had diagnosed her with the same thing as our son. And I have seen her recently, and she's not any better. She's saying she's not any better. But she keeps saying, they tell me I'm better. And they're so nice to me, and I'm so glad they're helping me with this. And I'm thinking, but you've spent a ton of money, and you don't feel...
Thousands of dollars.
Tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah. And you don't feel any better. If I took my car to the shop and said, man, my brakes are out, and I went there and I spent $20,000 or $30,000 and my brakes still weren't working, I would begin to think, this mechanic doesn't know how to work on cars. So anyway, the short part of the story is I accidentally went to another doctor that had the same kind of philosophy, and they did a regular blood test on me, which is what other medicine doctors would do too. We
thought she was a doctor. It ended up she was a chiropractor. Did all these blood tests and everything. Go ahead.
And I didn't know till I got there when I saw alternative on the sign, and I realized, okay, well, I'm going to just go in and see what she says. So she took some blood tests, and then I came back a couple weeks later thinking, okay, I'm just going to get the blood test, and then I'm not going to doctors anymore. Well, in the blood test, it was, your body's overrun with iron, and all your organs are going to shut down, and I'm just sure this is the case, and here's 12 bottles of supplements I want you to take. And I was thinking, what? What do you mean I'm about to die? I don't have time to die right now. Just kidding. No.
You don't.
But my first thought was, this sounds awfully suspicious. But I went ahead and found another doctor who I thoroughly researched, who was an MD. And I set up an appointment for Friday. But this was Tuesday. Between Tuesday and Friday, I was thinking, I don't feel very good. Oh, maybe something's going on. And I'm the person telling you, don't fall for this. And here I am thinking, I kept telling Tara, are these psychosomatic symptoms? I don't know. So Friday comes, I go talk to the regular doctor, and he's going down the list, and he's like, no, irrelevant. Why did they even take this test? And in the end, he explained to me in great detail. And when I would ask him, well, why is this? And he said, well, because if this and this were the case, then that shows this. And we have research that shows that when we do this, then this happens. And I like that kind of thing. I like to always, if there's something that scares me, I like to do some research and find out, okay, what is really true here? Mm-hmm. And I strongly suggest that you do that too. Mm-hmm. So I just went through a whole big long story.
Okay, we have.
Don't go by your feelings.
Yes.
Like, feelings will betray you, regardless of what Star Wars says. If there's something and you're going to make a life decision about it, do not let your feelings be your guide. Let the truth be your guide. And if you don't know what the truth is, do specific research and find out. But in the end, none of us are going to live forever. Well, we are, but we're not going to live forever here. So
if you're Christian, you're going to live forever in heaven. But yeah, so we have 3 birthdays that I could find. We have Mike, Barb, and Tammy.
And Emma and Eleanor.
Oh my, and Emma and Eleanor.
Mike, Barbara, Tammy. Okay.
Okay, let's do some birthdays, guys. Our How to Save on Groceries e-course is 50% off until Friday. Only $12.50 for over 360 pages and 10 videos. It is a great e-course. My VA said, oh man, where was this 10 years ago? It took her 10 years to learn the tips in that e-course. So go check it out. It's a great deal. And don't forget, if you need some great recipes to eat better, spend less, check out our Dining on a Dime cookbook also. And let's do some birthdays.
Let's see. Don't think.
And that's all we're gonna say about that, isn't it?
Oh man, we could go on forever, but we're gonna stop because we're probably driving y'all crazy.
Margaret is also on that.
Okay.
So we have Emma, Eleanor, Barbara, Mike, Tammy, and Margaret.
You ready?
Yep.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Oh
no! What does that mean?
We hit the end.
Oh why? What does that mean? Does it mean you're jinxed? No, it just means that our candle went out.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Emma, Eleanor, Barbara, Mike, Tammy, and Margaret. Happy birthday to you. Woo!
Yay!
Happy birthday, guys.
Well, thanks for sticking around, everybody.
Birthday.
Sorry if we didn't. Oh, and happy birthday, Gracie.
Happy birthday, Gracie.
Well, thanks for hanging out, everybody.
I have a present from Teresa, real quick. Okay, I opened the end, but I didn't open. What is it? Real quick. Oh, she's sending us a present. What is it? Oh, an apron. How pretty. Oh, my goodness. That is gorgeous. Did you make that?
Yeah, that's really pretty.
Oh, thank you, Teresa. Teresa F. in Tennessee.
Awesome.
Tennessee is beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, man. How nice.
We love the apron collection.
Yes. Yes. I need to get a bigger rack for my apron collection because I run out of room. So, all right, guys, please visit us at livingonadime.com.
Yes.
I hope that helped you if you were on the fence. And I hope you're still friends with us if you don't agree with us, because really we're not trying to bash anybody at all.
In fact, we're not trying to bash people, but
no.
what Tara was actually saying, I don't really want to get on the bad side of our friends, but there are a lot of people that need to hear this because they're not really into that and they're just going to spend more because they feel guilty. And that's not a good reason to spend more.
No.
So.
Yep. So.
There was something else. some people were asking about links. We do have, we didn't share a lot of them in the show, but if you go to livingonadime.com, in the show notes, we have links to a lot of the stuff we talked about. There were some that I didn't think about putting in there because you didn't research it. I did. Yeah. So, but we have a bunch of links in there to the stuff we talked about, and also if you want to grab the groceries on a dime while it's cheap and stuff like that.
And I had a question about the Instapot really quick. Okay. Do I love it? Would you buy it? I'm doing a month-long trial, so give me till
the end of February.
Give me till the end of February to try it. So far, I've done a few things in it. The food that has been cooked in it is good, but it is not faster by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, some of it is actually taking longer than me just cooking it on the stove or in the oven. But I'm gonna give it a month, and I'm gonna give you my full. My opinion in the end. It's $100. Yeah. So anyway, all right, guys, have a good night, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.